Hi everyone. In today's video, I'll be sharing tips and tricks for how to care for your bags. Now, I get this question a lot as I do have a pretty big bag collection, particularly in luxury pieces. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter whether it's a contemporary piece or the highest levels of luxury, every bag is an investment. And I know I personally like to care for my products not only to extend the longevity of the piece, but also so I can enjoy them to their fullest. So in today's video, I'll be talking through general bag care tips and then also touch on how to care for specific products such as leather, canvas, Vachetta, and Suede. And then finally, I'll share how I personally store my bags, which means you guys get to have a first sneak peek at my new beauty space. So if we haven't met, my name is Jo, and I'm a lover of all luxury bags and beauty. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe, and be sure to click the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So finally, I would just like to give a quick thanks to Fashionphile, who is the sponsor of today's video. So Fashionphile is one of the top luxury resellers in the market, and they have years of experience handling luxury products, particularly luxury bags. So they recently released an entire line of products that are focused on bag care, so I'll be sharing those throughout the video. So thanks so much to Fashionphile for sponsoring this video. Okay, so before we start, I of course just want to note that while I'm sharing my personal tips and tricks that I use on my own bag collection, I would always recommend reviewing the brand's recommended care instructions. So usually it'll come in a little care card, or there'll be directions on the website, or else you could always go and talk to someone that works with the brand, works for the brand, such as a client advisor, especially when we're talking about these types of luxury products. I say this because while caring for your bags can definitely extend the life of these pieces, there are risks if you do go, outside of the brand's recommended care instructions. So if you are ever in doubt, I would just say make sure you do your own research. Again, talk to a client advisor just to make sure you're fully informed before moving forward. So the first thing I want to talk about is protecting the bottom of your bag. Overall, I would say bags that don't have feet at the bottom just have a higher chance of wear and tear, whether that's fading, whether it's dirt or grime. It's just something to account for when you're using your bags. So an easy way to protect your bag, especially ones like this that don't have feet, is just to reduce the amount of contact it might have with surfaces, especially ones in public where you don't know how clean they're going to be. One of the ways to do that is with a handbag hook. So in this case, I have one here from Fashionphile. It comes in this really pretty little tin case. Now, what I love about this specific handbag hook is not only is it really pretty, I like the Fashionphile logo here, but I also love that it feels very substantial, and also it feels very secure when you're hooking it onto a table or surface. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall or, drop your bag. I also love that it folds up to be very flat, so you can just tuck it away and it can fit into nearly every bag, mini bags included. Another item that I use on my bags that don't have feet are these handbag heels. So these were created by my friend Alyssa. She is the Gal's Guide here on YouTube, and she made these little magnetic feet. So you can see they snap together like this, and they come in obviously sets of 4, and then you can attach them on your bag so that your bags will have feet at the bottom. They come in different shapes, so square and circle, and then they also come in different styles such as gold, silver, black, and I think beige, and a number of other colors. So I really think this is just absolutely ingenious. This is not sponsored. She did provide them to me to try, but I genuinely am just a huge fan. I do use them all the time, and I just love that you can put them on, but they're not a permanent change. You're not damaging the bag. You're just adding these on, and then you can take them off when you're done at the end of the day. So now let's talk about protecting the interior of your bags, especially bags with light interiors like my Longchamp here, and also ones like here. This is my niece vanity. While they say this is wipeable, I want to keep the interior of this bag clean. So there are a few different options, and first and most obviously, there are bag inserts. So my favorite ones are these DuPont paper ones. I like them because they are incredibly thin and they still have a little bit of structure at the bottom, but they're thin and they don't take up a lot of space in the bag. So here I've put the insert into my little Longchamp La Pliage mini, and it's just perfect. It doesn't take up much room at all, but now I just can rest assured that I'm not going to dirty the inside of the bag. Same with this insert here. It just fits so well. Now you'll see I have used this a bunch. I did get a stain in here, to be honest, but then I think about the fact that that stain would have been on the actual lining of my niece vanity here. So I would much rather have it happen on this bag insert. And again, this adds a lot of extra organization. I think I found both of these on Amazon, so they're easy to find, and I do think they make a huge difference. Secondly, you guys know that I am always using pouches and SLGs, small leather goods, in my bags. And you'll see this in my short form content all the time. And it may seem like I'm doing it solely because I really like organization. Also, I just absolutely love little mini pouches and things. But another reason I do it is because it helps protect the interior of my bags. And that can be really important if you have sharp objects or other objects that might be prone to potentially leaking and could stain your bag. So for example, in this case, I have my new beloved Speedy Soft 30. It is a very bright, very vivid leather on the interior here. And so I'm always very careful about what I put inside the bag. So here you'll see some of the SLGs that I am actually currently using. These were the ones I had in my bag today. So while I do actually use these SLGs and they are a part of my daily routine, one of the drawbacks of these pieces is the fact that it's not waterproof or lined. So if I'm honest, when I'm using these types of SLGs, I'm not actually carrying certain things like my hand sanitizers and my lotions. I know I show those a lot in my short form content, in my what's in my bag type reels, but that's more to show what fits. That isn't actually reality in what or how I carry things in my bag. So for those types of products, I definitely would recommend putting them in something that is more waterproof and leak proof. Now there are plenty of options for those types of pouches out there, but I'm going to share three of the ones that Fashionphile just released. And so these are they're calling them the handbag protector pouch. But what I love, again, not only I do like these little tags here, but the interior is made out of this PVC material. So, you know, you can spill stuff in here. It's wipeable. These are the types of products I would put inside, right? Again, I have hand sanitizer. I have any type of spray like this. My lotion, I feel like the tops on them always fall off really easily. So that one makes me nervous. Definitely want that in a bag. And then even claw clips like this one here, it has the jewels and the edges of these can scratch things. So again, it's just nice to be able to put those in the bag, zip it right up, and now, especially in my spacious Speedy, it fits in there with no issue. This mini one's not gonna fit into my super tiny bags, but it does fit in bags like my Alma BB. Here it fits in. I still have a lot of room. So in case you're wondering what it can fit in. So they also come in a medium and large size as well. I think these are going to be great for upcoming road trips where I'm carrying a lot of toiletries. This way I don't have to worry about anything potentially leaking into my bags. So now we're going to run through some bag care tips by material. So we'll start first with canvas. And obviously Louis Vuitton is one of the most recognizable when it comes to canvas bags. This material itself is actually a coated canvas. So it is meant to be pretty hard wearing. That said, I am sure many of us have seen photos or videos of cracked canvas, and the cracks are honestly effectively the beginning of the end for canvas pieces. This is something that Louis Vuitton will not repair if there is a crack in your bag. So this is something we definitely want to work hard to prevent. So what causes the cracks? I would say some of the most common reasons include excessive direct sun exposure or extreme heat, lack of proper storage. So if you're like overstuffing the bag, or if you're folding your bag and scrunching it up, that will cause issues over time. Now, I have definitely heard a lot of different recommendations on how to care for canvas. I've heard people say that you should condition it to keep it nice and soft, and others say to avoid it altogether. But I will say that on the Louis Vuitton website, their official response is that canvas can be easily cleaned with a damp cloth and slightly soapy water. And they also say that home remedies such as mink oil, perfume, any type of alcohol-based solutions such as hand sanitizer or leather lotions and cleaners or chemicals should not be used on any of their canvas products. So I remember in the 2020 timeframe when there was obviously a lot of concern with germs keeping things clean, and people were using hand sanitizers or Clorox wipes and wiping down their products. And I do remember Louis Vuitton coming out and saying very clearly, do not wipe your bags with those types of chemicals, as it will affect the canvas coating. And it sounds like from the website, they are also saying even leather lotions, cleaners, and chemicals, they don't recommend. I actually think that is another reason that they recommend wiping your bags down with a damp cloth on the canvas or some mild soapy water, because that will get rid of some of the dirt and the grime and also some of the oils or the residue on your hands. So if you have lotion on your hands, if you had hand sanitizer or something, you want to make sure that you are wiping that off of your bag so it doesn't eat away at the canvas over time. So take with that as you will. I will say I have tried using different sprays for non-leather materials, but after reading the directions on the Louis Vuitton website, I've stopped doing that since then. But again, I think overall the main drivers for keeping your canvas from getting dried out or cracking involves really proper storage just as much as ensuring you are, caring for your piece overall. So now let's move on to Vachetta. Now, you guys know that I personally feel like Vachetta, or at least especially the raw brand new white version, it's like the bane of my existence. I am always just really worried about getting water spots or oil or grease stains on the leather, because if that happens, especially on fresh leather, it can leave stains permanently on those pieces. And I know I'm not alone in feeling this way, because if you look at forums and bag communities, they have so many conversations about the best way to protect the leather on these pieces. I will say though that the bag community is pretty torn down the middle with regards to whether or not you should spray the Vachetta with some sort of protectant such as Apple Guard. That's a very popular one. Now, while I've heard a lot of positive things, it still just kind of makes me a bit nervous, because the people that have said you shouldn't do it, their reasoning is that the spray actually does seal the leather, which prevents it from being able to breathe as well, which actually then makes it more susceptible to cracking. But again, people have very strong opinions about it one way or another. Again, I would just recommend whatever you do, just do your own research. I do think everyone does agree, though, that it helps to regularly moisturize and condition your pieces, as that will help the leather from drying out and prevent it from cracking. Now, Louis Vuitton does give additional directions on how to care for this type of leather. Basically, from what they share, their recommendation is to just use the bag to allow it to age naturally. They actually do say they don't recommend using any type of chemical or solvents on the bag. They say it's not recommended. They also note that home remedies will darken the leathers. So if that is not something that you want to happen on your bag, you should definitely avoid that. So I have tried a number of different conditioners and cleaners for leather. In this case, I am showing two that I've been using recently. This is the handbag cleaning kit from Fashionphile. So they have the cleaner, and then they also have a conditioner to use as well. Now again, Fashionphile also says, proceed with caution if you're using it on Vachetta. It may darken the piece. What I have personally found is if my bag has already started in the patina process, where again, there is a bit of that sheen on the bag already, when I have used cleaners, I haven't run into an issue where there's like a substantial amount of darkening on the leather. But I use the cleaner first, I let it dry, and then I put the conditioner on after and kind of buff it a bit so it gets that nice sheen to it. So here on my Speedy, I actually did one handle with the cleaner and conditioner. This is the other handle. So you can see the color still remained pretty much the same in this case, but look how nicely polished and blended this one looks. This one still has, just some of the, age to it here. It's just a bit dry. So I'm going to polish this one as well tonight after this video. But just to give you an idea of what the before and after might look like, just as a comparison. But again, proceed at your own decision making about whether you want to use any type of product on your Vachetta pieces. Let's move on to leather bags in general. So there are different types of leather, obviously, and they have different amounts of finish on them. So in this case, for example, I am showing my gorgeous Miu Miu Adventure bag. This is made out of a Napa leather, and you can just see the texture of this bag. So this is an extremely buttery soft, supple leather, but it is also very delicate. It scratches very easily because it doesn't have a thick amount of finish on it. So in this case, this is a bag that definitely needs a lot of TLC. It is one that I do condition on a regular basis. When I say regular, typically every few months. So again, I'm using the Renew handbag cleaner and conditioner. So these really are intended for those smooth or grain finished leathers, patent leathers. You can use it on other materials as well. Either way, I would recommend whenever you're trying any type of new product on your bag to just do a small test somewhere in an inconspicuous space on the bag, just to make sure you know how the leather of your specific piece is going to respond to any product that you're using. So I have used this before on the Miu Miu, and I've absolutely loved the results. Similar to what I had shown on my Louis, I use the same process on this bag. I started out with a little bit of the cleaner on a cloth that came with the set, and I just started to rub it into the leather. So after letting it fully dry, I then went back in again with the conditioner, and it is just so satisfying rubbing it in and watching the leather really just come back to life. So after letting it dry, I do kind of buff it just a little bit more. And this is after I've fully conditioned it, and the bag just looks absolutely stunning. So next, let's talk about suede, because I feel like it is such a trending material over the past year or so, and it doesn't look like that trend is slowing down anytime soon. Now, obviously, suede is very different from smooth leathers. In this case, I see a far more broad agreement that spraying suede can increase protection. I did find a spray on Amazon that I felt like got pretty good reviews. I have sprayed it on my bags and they didn't look any different. They didn't have any damage come from it after I've sprayed them. So far for me, again, personally, I haven't had issues spraying my suede, and it does help give a little bit more water resistance. And also for me, I feel like it helps reduce the chance of color transfer. Finally, another thing I want to note is this tool here. Again, this is something I got off of Amazon, but this is one of the most important tools, I would say, in caring for suede. So it has two sides to it. It has this brush side, and then this side feels just kind of like a giant rubber eraser. But both of them can be used to treat your suede, where you can brush it to get dust or things off of it and work to kind of reset the nap of the suede. And then this rubber side can also help to like buff out if there's any, you know, little marks or things on the bag. I actually had gotten a little bit of like stickiness. I think it was gum or something on one of my suede Damier bags, and I was terrified, but I was lucky enough that this little rubber bit was able to gently rub it out without affecting the suede at all. Another thing to note is if you do get oil or grease on suede, something you can do is just put cornstarch on it and let the cornstarch kind of draw that grease out, and then hopefully be able to wipe it off and again be able to brush it to get that suede back to where it was. Overall, I know suede, I feel like can be a bit intimidating, but I think so far with the pieces I've had, it hasn't been too bad. Again, just being able to have tools like this helps really extend the life of the pieces. Hardware. Now, I know there are a number of different products that you can use on tarnished hardware, one of them being Brazos. So I have Brazos, I have used it before in the past, but I will say this formula is really strong to the point that if you are not careful, I feel like you can strip off multiple layers of the metal, and that can leave like this pinky undertone underneath it. And so I actually used to use this product a lot. Now I don't tend to use it as much anymore. And instead I just prefer to use either like a jewelry polishing cloth or a tarnish cloth on the metals. It does take a little more elbow grease, but I do feel like there's less of a chance of really like stripping the metal down too far. I have a little tarnish cloth here that came in this little mending and repairs kit, which I think is pretty handy. It comes just with some thread and some travel scissors, all sorts of things that you might need, you know, if you need to have quick repairs on the road. So I don't know. For me, I like to be always prepared when I go on trips, so I will definitely be taking things like this with me. But I love that they thought to include this little tarnish cloth. So I have actually been polishing this right little piece of brass right here, and you can already see on this one just the difference between the two. And I like, again, the fact that it's not adding any extra chemicals. It's not adding anything that's going to affect the leather around the bag. I will say on the other side, I had used Brasso, and you can kind of see the residue right here on the bag that I regret. So I stopped right away when I had noticed this. And on this side, you can see there just isn't that effect, but you can definitely see how much cleaner and shinier it is than this one. So finally, let's touch on bag storage, as I truly do believe this can have some of the biggest impact on the longevity of your pieces. So as I've already mentioned, some of the biggest culprits that can really age your bags quickly are sunlight, high heat, humidity, as well as dust and dirt, and then overall just like improper structures of your bags if you have them folded up and so on. Now, I will say that something else that is recommended is to have your bags be stored in the dust bags that they come with, especially those luxury pieces. I will say, as you're about to see, because I will show you how I store my pieces, I don't actually store my bags in the dust bags. This is a personal choice. I'll kind of show you why I feel like I'm okay with this. But given I am trying to give proper bag care advice and tips, I just want to make sure that you hear me when I say, do as I say, not as I do, okay? All right, so here is a sneak peek at my beauty room. This is where I film all of my content and also where I store all of my bags. I like to keep my bags in these drawers so they are away from a lot of dust and also away from most direct sunlight. So another thing I have done is, for example, on my Pochette Matisse East West, I did actually wrap this ribbon around it because the bag sometimes has a tendency to curl up on the edges. So when I store it, I do try to just gently tie this ribbon just to keep the top in place. So that is something that you might want to do depending on the bags in your collection. Now this drawer is a little closer to natural sunlight and it does have a little more exposure. However, I will note that I don't actually keep my window shade open normally for the specific reason of I want to ensure that my bags aren't getting direct sunlight on them on a regular basis, as direct sunlight can cause fading and yellowing of bags and even cracking of leather. So you have to be very careful about that. So as I said, my shade is normally down, so I don't ever really get a lot of constant exposure of sunlight to my bags. All right, so that is your sneak peek of my beauty room. Let me know if you'd want to do a full closet tour, as I would be really excited to share it. So that wraps up this video. Thank you again for watching and spending a little time with me today. As always, I love hearing from you guys in the comments. Definitely share if you learned anything new from today's video, or be sure to share any of your own bag care tips and tricks. I'm always looking to learn new things. If you like this type of content, as always, please like and subscribe. I would love to have you as a part of this community. And finally, again, a quick shout of thanks to Fashionphile for sponsoring this video. If you guys are interested in any of the bag care products that I shared, I'll be sure to include them in the description below. If you want to watch more of my content, I'll be sure to include a playlist here on the right, and YouTube will also share their recommended video. Otherwise, bye for now.